Hyread Gaze Mini, what are you doing here? Don't you know that 6 inches are a thing of the past? Well, let's see what you got. It looks like the Gaze Mini has 300 ppi, physical buttons, a G sensor, and a 1TB expandable SD card slot. It also has onboard audio and physical page turn buttons. And guess what, everybody? Google Play right out of the box. Before walking into this thing, however, you have to note, it is $214, making this an extremely expensive 6-inch reader. So with that prefaced, let's dive in. Let's look at the body before we get going here. I must say this is a very subjective opinion here because, yeah, it's kinda nice. It has physical page turn buttons on both sides and back buttons on both sides, but it does have a chunky bezel. And overall, it's kind of like Nook Simple Touchy dated. Looks a little bit 2013 overall. It doesn't look very modern and new, and to be honest, it doesn't look in tune with the rest of the devices in their lineup. But all that out of the way, you do have USB-C, a microphone, an SD card, and onboard audio. The back has no patterns or texture of any kind, it's just very basic for what you get. The UI is simplistic, defaulting on the store, as that is as far back as you can go. You have library, books, my, which is just some random information about what notifications you have, etc., and more. This is where all your apps are going to be, and yes, you do get Google Play kind of out of the box, and we'll explain that in a second. If you tap the top, you get all of these things up here. Now, 2 things you must notice: A2 mode and image 256, what they are calling grayscale 256, which it's actually called. That allows for better gradients across the entire unit, and A2 mode will give you faster refresh. That'll be your speed mode. Now, it only has A2 mode on or off, so that's what you're dealt with. Google Play. We actually discovered this in our live showcase that we did because Hyread never told us about it. You have to go to settings and then you go to user settings. Down here it says enable Google Frame, aka the framework. You then have to click GSF ID and bind your unit to the Google Play services, and then you go back and open up Google Play and sign in and then restart and then wait 15 minutes and then sign in again and then verify that it's you on your phone, and then it works. So it's not exactly out of the box, but it's here, and this is one of the few manufacturers you can count on one hand that actually have Google Play. From here you get games, apps, books, and it all works because it's Android 11, and anything you download will immediately get placed on the home screen. For example, right there, we just downloaded Kindle, and it works perfectly fine. I gotta say, as dated as the body kinda looks, it is so nice to have physical page turn buttons on both sides. I don't even know why I need it on the left. I'm not left-handed, but just to know I have it and nobody else does just gives me the satisfaction of towering over others. You also get a back button that goes back in the queue however many processes you've gone through. So if I press back, it's going to go completely out of this because that's the last thing I looked at. We are using Project Gutenberg just to mix it up. You can use Kindle, you can use the stock reader, it's all really the same thing. Now, because this isn't color, you get a much whiter experience in the background. You'll see compared to the white table here, it's much nicer than, say, a color device. Color devices are typically very gray. There's not really any issues or any real thing to say about the e-reading experience on this unit. The page turn buttons work perfectly fine. You can use your finger. It goes into a kind of faux A2 mode when you move and scroll through things. Has a little bit of inertia as well, so you don't have to change it to A2 mode, which we will show you when we get into video. But for the most part, e-reading is very compact, it's very simple, it's very streamlined, it's a great experience. There's nothing really negative to say. I kind of like that you can't key map all of the buttons. I believe having 6 individual processes would become a little bit confusing, but they do allow you to key map the back buttons, which they are defaulted at. So watch this. If I click on this, I can change this to whatever I want it to do. Turn off and on the glow lights, take a refresh, screenshot, back, and home. So for example, if I assign the right button to turn off and on the glow light, and I assign the back button to do a refresh, I now have the ability to do a bunch of things. I can clean up my screen anytime I go into anywhere. If I go into settings, if I go into the browser and I see some ghosting, boom, I refresh it. Or I can turn the glow light off and on with the press of a button, and it's so fast. Key mappable keys are not very common in our industry. We do see it every once in a while on things like Hanvon and iReader, but it isn't industry standard, especially because things like Amazon and Kobo, they don't really want you messing with all the keys. They have it kind of ingrained into their system, especially Barnes & Noble with its page jump and its chapter jump. So I kind of understand that, but it just really does change the dynamic of your unit to be able to do things like that at the press of a button. By default, you get a music player app as well that gives you artists, albums, songs, playlists, and now playing. And why they do this is because if you're scrubbing through, you actually get onboard audio. What I like about onboard audio, just tangent for a second, I know a lot of the times companies like Barnes & Noble and other manufacturers, they have audio, but it's only either Bluetooth or 3.5mm headphone jack or nothing. And it's very nice to have onboard audio with a speaker, good or bad, because it at least gives you the chance to get your bearings. Where am I in this song? Where am I in my audiobook, etc.? Without that, you have no way of telling. Barnes & Noble, for example, you can't even go into their app unless you have something connected. It actually won't even let you. An error displays. Honestly, pretty well thought out. I love the organization, and I also like the fact that when you're in the app, the page turn buttons turn into the volume controls without having to key map them or change any sort of settings. Well done. You know, we've noticed on these kind of smaller devices that, in both stature and size, that they don't put a whole lot of precedence on speed mode. So on devices like this, we're not seeing extreme, balanced, speed, clear. You know, we don't see that wide spread of available preset parameters and no other way to control it subsequently. So you really just have A2 either on or off. And when you turn it on, it looks okay, and then when you turn it off, you can't watch the video at all. So you don't have a lot of functionality when it comes to video playback, but it did get the job done. It's got Google Play, it's got physical page turn buttons, and an SD card to expand your memory to the moon and back. But when all is said and done, this thing doesn't have any massive standout features. It's over $210, making it not cheap, and the device body looks a little bit dated. It's a little bit of a fork in the road. On the plus side, it has Google Play, which sets it aside from a lot of devices. But on the other hand, it's over $200, putting it in a league of its own for small screen e-reading. The choice is yours and yours alone. You have the facts, and we'll leave you with that for now.